Chapter 1, in which we meet a man who isn't there. Ours is an age of suicide and mysterious disappearance. Arcturus, A Journal of Books and Opinion, 1841. In August of 1843, 10 months before that angel flew to Wisconsin, a man from a small town in western New York vanished into the night. Such disappearances were not uncommon in those days. The Panic of 1837, the deepest and longest-lasting economic crisis the young country had ever faced, to be rivaled only by the Great Depression a century later, had hurtled countless average Americans into sudden financial ruin. For some, the humiliating prospect of having the sheriff take possession of their goods and real estate to satisfy a creditor's claim was simply too much to bear. As one Pennsylvania man who owed $250 gone I can't tell where put it in his 1842 suicide note, "I am gone and forgotten, numbered with the dead, where the creditors call upon me no more." But for others, there was a way to end one's miseries without putting a bullet in one's brain, to lose one's life without actually dying. For years, those who hoped to outrun creditors had sought refuge on the fast-expanding western frontier. The man who disappeared from the New York town of Randolph, 60 miles south of Buffalo, at the tail end of the summer of 1843, had faced mounting debts for years, putting off his creditors with increasingly ornate ruses until at last his only hope was to get out of town. In many other periods of history, the missing man might never have been heard from again after his disappearance. But he lived in an era of sudden transformations, an era when you could be broke one day and rich the next, anonymous one day and famous the next, an era when wild dreams and lunatic fantasies could quickly metamorphose into hardened facts. At that exact moment in history, for example, as many as 50,000 followers of a prognosticating preacher named William Miller were convinced that the second coming of Christ would take place within the next 7 months. Such a precarious time, when nothing felt stable or certain anymore, favored chameleons like the man who was no longer there. Although he was physically unimposing, a few inches over 5 feet, and bald with an oddly bulging forehead, he did possess one distinguishing feature: his dark brown eyes, which one acquaintance described as rather small but very bright and piercing, giving an extremely animated expression to his whole countenance. Another claimed that they seemed as though they could bore right through a person. But more than any tangible attribute, the vanished man possessed an invisible, ineffable aura called confidence. And in those days, before electrical power, confidence was what made antebellum America hum. Confidence was black magic, good fortune, and hard cash combined. Confidence could turn worthless paper into glittering gold, cow towns into cities, empty lots into bustling businesses, losers into winners, paupers into millionaires. Confidence was a charm deployed by bankers and merchants, philosophers and politicians, clergymen and card sharps alike. Confidence was the soul of trade, in the words of a leading financial publication. Without it, added Herman Melville, commerce between man and man, as between country and country, would, like a watch, run down and stop. In an age before the federal government began printing paper money, an age when people had to trust in privately issued banknotes, glorified IOUs, confidence was the de facto national currency. But if the missing man's gift for confidence enabled him to gain people's trust, to make them believe the most absurd stories, it also got him into serious trouble. Just before dropping out of sight, he had allegedly attempted to pull off a swindle involving a farm he pretended to own in the interior of Ohio, in the words of one newspaper near his hometown. He managed to sell this non-existent property to an unsuspecting purchaser, who then removed to Ohio, but was unable to find the farm he had bought. Finding no evidence that the seller owned any land in the county, the enraged buyer returned to New York, procured a warrant, and had him arrested. Shortly after being detained, however, the man reportedly escaped by making up some excuse, for he wished to step upstairs and was permitted to do so, since which the officer has not seen him. The fugitive's name was James Jesse Strang, but the local paper had another sobriquet for him: the greatest scoundrel in all the land.